You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Hello, and I forgot my notes. Good morning. You were watching the Pace. Just a second. I'm getting them. I'm grabbing them. I'm here. I am coming back to it. Hello, and welcome to Psychedelic and Cannabis Educational News. It is October 5th, 2023. See, I have notes and everything. We are here and live from the LegacyC420.com news desk and the Pace Networks on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Boxcast locations, paceradio.net, cbgtv.com. We're just like all over the place. Search us, seek us, and ye shall find quite easily. Good morning, Glenn. How are you? Hopefully more together than me.
I'm doing absolutely great this morning, but there's no sun. That's a big down for me. I need sun. Yeah. I like sun.
Yeah, sun's good. I was headbanging to our opening music, and now my hair's all over the place. But I really am together, except for that hair that wants to stick out now because I was, doing this to the music. I am in the middle of cacao training. So we are doing a deep dive cacao. My hair's sticking out, so I might as well just take it all down. We're doing a deep dive cacao, which means we are drinking double doses of regular ceremonial cacao twice a day. So 4 times the amount during the day. And we're doing it for 8 days. And needless to say, today's day 5. So I am, 4 days and 1 dose in, just over halfway through. And whew, boy, howdy. I thought this was going to be an easy deep dive. It's hot chocolate, right? It's real hot chocolate and very bitter and but it's that's basically what we're drinking. We're taking the cacao from the Amazonian jungle, pure cacao, ceremonial, and we're making a hot chocolate in a certain fashion. And I thought, well, this is going to be like heart healing and lovely and beautiful and whew. Wow.
And maybe in the end it is that.
In the end, it definitely will be that. I've learned that through other natural medicines that they give you the work to do and then they give you the beauty of the healing. And I know I'll get there.
No pain, no gain, they say, right?
That's right. Holy frig. So yeah, I am definitely, it's not painful, but it, a lot of these medicines flush you. So that's kind of what's going on.
We understand that.
If I have to literally run for a moment, I will be right back. I promise. But it's a very beautiful medicine. I'm learning a lot about how it heals and what it does, and building a relationship with the medicine. It's a feminine relationship, a feminine medicine. So it's building a relationship with her. It's very interesting, and it's pretty amazing. And even through the really hard times, I can't help but smile because it all comes with love.
And it's all new to me. I never heard of it before, probably a month ago when you were talking about it to me.
Yeah. Everybody, of course, knows coca, Hershey's coca, you know what I mean? And make your hot chocolate and all that stuff. Everybody knows that, but this is where it all comes from. And it's not processed at all. It's taken off the plant with prayer. It's created with prayer. It's all very ceremonial, and you can really tell. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
Pretty
Sounds
amazing.
Cool. And you mentioned this is a female medicine. What do you mean by that?
The spirit of the medicine is feminine.
Okay, I understand. Okay. I thought you meant it was just for women, and I was kind of confused by that. Okay.
No. It's the same as when I went and did Iboga, the spirit of Iboga is male.
Okay.
And I found that when I was in Spirit Walk, when Iboga spoke to me, it was a very deep masculine voice. And when he showed himself to me, I mean, I didn't see facial features or anything, but it was a very masculine silhouette, right? It's It's a very masculine energy coming from that medicine, and from cacao, it's a very feminine energy.
See, I haven't even started the first story, and I'm already learning.
Isn't it great? Thank you for letting me share, by the way.
I'm interested in it because I love learning new things, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to see you at the end of the month, because guess what, folks? I'm buying a new VW. I should be leaving here on the 21st to go out to Montreal to get it, and driving home, which means I'll be driving right by Glenn. And hopefully, well, no, not even hopefully. To this time, everything's going to go perfect. And well, not, I shouldn't say perfect, but it's going to go without the stress as it did last time. And I'm going to be able to stop in New Brunswick and, you know, and see Glenn and a few other friends that I have there. I'm pretty excited. So, yeah. So you know, and if I get going about that, I will never shut up because I'm so excited. So I'm right over to the first story, which is coming to us from StratCan. And it is telling us that compliance and enforcement efforts continue to increase, especially for personal and designated growers.
Health Canada increased the number of inspections it conducted in the most recent fiscal year compared to the year prior, especially of personal and designated medical cannabis growers. According to the newest annual report covering April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 23, Health Canada's regulatory branch conducted 662 inspection activities of regulated parties under the Cannabis Act and its regulations. Included were 170 registered personal and designated production of cannabis for medical purposes inspections.
This number increased from 549 inspections in 21-22, which included 89 inspections of personal and designated cannabis growers. In-person, I just had a pop-up come up on my screen. I had to get rid of it. In-person inspections were mostly paused from 20 to 21 due to the pandemic-related closures, of course. The increase in inspection of those with licenses to grow cannabis for medical purposes, either for themselves or a designated grower for others, is part of Health Canada's efforts to reduce what it refers to as a misuse of the medical cannabis program, while still maintaining access to the medical program for those who need it.
In addition to inspections of these personal and designated growers, Health Canada inspectors also conduct compliance verifications with federally licensed commercial cannabis producers. Of the 492 inspections conducted of commercial license holders, Health Canada issued 15 non-compliant inspection reports, 163 major observations, and 358 minor observations. Sampling was conducted in 5 of these inspections. Of the 15 non-compliance reports, Health Canada issued 2 formal warning letters, 1 partial license suspension, along with product seizure and detention.
Issues that resulted in a non-compliant rating, including conducting unauthorized activities with cannabis, insufficient record keeping, lack of appropriate inventory control and oversight, unsatisfactory cannabis packaging or labeling, insufficient security measures in place, and non-compliance related to good production practices. There's a lot when it goes into being somebody's designated grower. You know, they talk about all of this stuff. And, you know, you have to have proper record keeping. You know, you have to have a proper inventory control. Like, I mean, they want you to basically be running a business in their fashion. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. The majority of inspections, 286 of them, were regularly scheduled inspections. Another 115 were compliance verifications, 31 were concerning sales, and 18 were targeted inspections. There were also 42 inspections related to industrial hemp license holders.
A regular inspection is conducted as part of Health Canada's normal activities. A targeted inspection looks at specific issues with the license holder, and a sales inspection relates to the sales of product a license holder is not authorized to sell. Of those inspections of hemp license holders, only 1 instance of non-compliance was reported, relating to insufficient record keeping and the license holder not meeting the conditions of their industrial hemp license. Record keeping again.
Yeah, it's a big one, and a lot of people, you know, I've learned, you know, building the home I'm living in, and whatnot, that a lot of people that work with their hands and whatnot, like they don't teach record keeping in school. So farmers or contractors, record keeping isn't something that's necessarily taught with that.
I've been a woodworker, construction worker most of my life, and I'm absolutely horrible at it. Horrible. Any bookkeeping, record keeping, anything like that. I have stacks of bills. I don't even know what to do with. It's crazy.
And you're talking to an accountant. It makes me just shake when I hear that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I mean, and I'm on the other end of the spectrum, right? Like, I mean, I'm all about the record keeping and lists and you know.
My brother and my sister are both accountants, and I'm absolutely horrible at anything to do with it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you know, you almost need somebody to help you in these things. Health Canada does not make it easy. I mean, it is government, right? In addition to these types of inspections, Health Canada also takes measures to ensure cannabis license holders are following the promotional prohibitions under the Cannabis Act. Gotcha. In the most recent year, Health Canada conducted 353 compliance activities related to promotions, which led to 93 actions, either compliance, promotional emails, letters, or calls, highlighting the agency's guidance-based approach towards compliance.
Personal and designated grows. A significant increase in inspections was of the personal and designated medical grows, expanding by 40% compared to the previous year. Of the 120 completed inspections, 78 resulted in no observations, and 92 resulted in at least one, for a total of 165 observations. These inspections resulted in Health Canada's revoking or refusing 16 of these registrations, with additional actions currently ongoing or under consideration at the time of publication.
Most of the license holders inspected in the past year were in Ontario or BC, 115 in Ontario, 29 in BC. But a handful were also in Alberta. There were 5, 10 in Manitoba, 11 in Quebec. We've talked about a couple of those. And in previous years, Quebec saw the majority of these kinds of inspections.
I'm really surprised BC's number 2. I'm sorry. BC's usually known as the one that forgives everything, that doesn't do this, and they're number 2.
You were expecting them to be lower?
Yeah, I was expecting them to be almost on the bottom of the list.
I'm not shocked that they have 29. You know, per capita, that's actually pretty low. But you know, I'm not surprised that Ontario is number 1.
Yeah.
In addition to these inspections, Health Canada continues to communicate with municipalities and law enforcement and share information with provincial and territorial health professional licensing authorities, such as provincial colleges of physicians, in instances of potential abuse by medical professionals, authorizing access to the medical program, such as authorizing a large quantity of cannabis.
The average daily amount authorized by healthcare practitioners for individuals registered to access cannabis for medical purposes from federally licensed sellers in Canada is just over 2 grams a day. Still, some have been authorizing more than 100 grams a day. The average daily amount authorized by healthcare practitioners for individuals registered with Health Canada for personal or designated production was 35.5 grams per day. According to Health Canada's most recent figures, as of March 2023, the number of individuals registered for personal and designated cultivation of cannabis for their own medical purposes decreased 6% from 20,448 in December of 22 to 19,076 in March 23, mainly from BC, Ontario, and Quebec.
In 2018, there were just under 26,000 active personal designated production registrations. That number grew to 47,000 by September 2021, before rapidly dropping to just over 19,000 March of this year. Police in Quebec recently shared information on a string of busts. We reported on that, actually. They had conducted on license holders, they say, are using the designation to feed into large-scale distribution and trafficking activities outside the scope of the license. I can't wait to follow those court cases.
Yeah. Personal and medical authorization sites have been under increased scrutiny in the past few years from several municipalities and many Conservative MPs, especially in Ontario, where the OPP says criminal enterprises are exploiting the Health Canada medical, personal, and designated cannabis production regime. A Southern Ontario county says they are the first in Canada to take steps to manage personal and designated medical grow licenses through local zoning bylaws. In 2022, Munis in Alberta called for limits on medical cannabis grows in residential areas. If this is for personal use, if it's your own cannabis grow and you're not a grower for someone else, can they even stop you from doing that on your own property?
Yes.
You know, I understand if you're growing for 5 patients and you have a huge
from schools, it has to be so far away from this and that. And each province is different. I mean, Quebec still doesn't allow you to grow at all.
I know.
Insanity. And, Manitoba just allowed their 4 plants. Like, I mean, so yeah, this happens. The municipalities are choosing to opt out. They're choosing bylaws. It's happening. So people are still fighting. There is still a large fight in Canada for allowing us to do this. That being said, I mean, as much as I love my medicine, I get it. Like, I mean, number one, it's not everybody's business. And number two, we do have to be respectful. It's not about, this is our right and we're going to do it and rah. It's not about that. It's like, this is our right. We need to find a way to do it that makes everybody happy. And so, like, people are going overboard on each side, and we really have to find a center space. And it's going to take years to do that, sadly.
Oh, yeah. It is.
Frog in my throat. So sorry. The amount of these inspections conducted by Health Canada has been growing annually. While there were 170 inspections in the most recent year and 89 in the year prior between April and March, Health Canada conducted 82 inspections associated with 82 personal and designated registrations. In 2019, there were only 9 inspections related to such registrations. And honestly, I get why they're doing it too, because there are people out there that have the ability to have 100 to 500 grams, and they get their grow license based on that, and they are growing to sell and make.
I had a license for 83 plants. I had a license for 83 plants, and I never grew that many. Never, but it was for personal for me. It was never for sale or anything like that. I used it for myself, right?
And that's what these people say too. Oh no, I have these 1,000 plants. This is all personal use, right? And it's not.
I understand that, and that's a Health Canada problem. They should never be issuing a license, or a doctor should never be giving you a license for 100 plants for a medical for one person.
Everybody has a price. You offer enough money to the doctor, you're going to get it signed. There are doctors out there that say, "Give me $5,000, I'll sign whatever you want." And they're all over the place. They're a dime a dozen. They don't even believe in cannabis, and they're doing it. So it's there are going to be those people out there that do it, but and I get that, and that sucks. And there should be some way of checking them out before you rubber stamp their license and say here, right? Or maybe somebody's being paid off in government. This is just my personal opinion, not the opinion of Pace Radio. So, but I mean, it's, sadly it happens, and then there are the people out there that are growing for personal and fall upon hard times, and they sell an ounce or two. Sadly, those people will get caught before the big guys do, because they don't know how to be as quiet about it. Right. But yeah, there are people out there that do that. So I understand why these inspections are happening. I understand why it's doing it, or why they're doing it, but leave the little guy alone, because
like you said, that's the little guy's the one who always gets caught.
Yeah.
And the big guy, even if they do get caught, they just get a little tiny fine and there's nothing.
Yeah. I got to move us on to the next story, because we put a lot of time on that one. Heading over to Barrie today, Neighbours complaints against Carmel Cannabis go up in smoke.
And this is what we were just talking about partially. Carmel is a growing player in the cannabis industry. The 4-year-old company based in Oro-Medonte Township last year won Craft Brand of the Year, Craft Cultivar of the Year, and Best Sativa Flower, based on a survey of over 300 Canadian bud tenders.
Review of the company's products are positive, and the company has developed a reputation for delivering what consumers want: potent, pungent plants, and they burn clean. Amazing.
You tried them?
I know Carmel well. Yeah. A review of Animal Face, which I was just about to bring up. Amazing. One of the company's most popular products on a site devoted to such things specifically references the strain's smell, an attribute that is apparently important to cannabis users. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Upon first whiff, a bold pine note dominates the senses, evoking feelings of tranquility and grounding, the review says. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Tranquility and grounding is the question. Not so much, according to Carmel's neighbors in the hamlet of Oro Station, located at the intersection of Line 7 South and Ridge Road East in Oro Medonde, about halfway between Barrie and Aurelia. Julia Dizote, who lives across the street from Carmel, said there is no escaping the smell, which she says is more skunk than bold pine note.
It's beautiful.
I love skunk, so.
You go outside. Oh, then there's a product I got to tell you about for you to go try. You go outside to enjoy a nice fresh day, and it's all you can smell. It's terrible. Oh, I want to move. I'll trade you houses. Dizote has been living in Oro Station for 5 years. The past 4 since Carmel set up shop have been horrible. She's thought of selling her home to escape the offensive odor, but doubts it would do well in the open market. Oh, I don't know. I know a lot of people.
I wonder
who would love
if this lady lives in Oro Medonde, which is a pretty rural area in Ontario, and there is a lot of farms around there. And at a certain time of year, some of those farms stink to high heaven for months at a time. And I wonder if that smells worse than this smell. Like, to me personally, I would way rather have this smell than any farm next to me. And I'm not anti-farmer by any means. I love to eat. So she thought of selling her home to escape the offensive odor, but doubts if it would do well on the open market. I think it would be pretty hard sell, she said. I mean, they'd come here, look at the house, and the first thing they'd smell is the pot. Nobody would want that.
According to Desite and other neighbors, the smell, noise, traffic, and lights from the indoor grow operation are constant headaches that never go away. Unlike an outdoor grow operation, they say, where the plants are only a concern during their flowering period, late August to early October, Carmel is an indoor operation. They grow a new crop every few months, so the problem never goes away.
The scale of Carmel's cannabis operation is impressive, considering you can't see it from the road or the country trail that passes it, just north of the facility's property line. A 6-foot-high chain-link fence with a razor wire on the top surrounds the grow compound. An electronically controlled gate and a video system silently monitors the comings and goings of workers, contractors, and visitors.
8 massive greenhouses, each one containing thousands of plants, are aligned with military precision. The fans are on, and you can hear the constant whirl of the blades from almost any location in the hamlet. A gentle breeze comes up from the southeast, and the place smells like it had just been invaded by 1,000 agitated skunks. Oh, yeah.
You don't have to buy it you don't have to buy it if you're standing here, says Bill Wallace, who has lived on Line 7 just south of Oro Station Crossroads for 50 years. Just come on over and inhale. That'll do the trick. I'm sorry, it will not do the trick, Bill. Wallace, like many of the folks Barrie today talked to in Oro Station, has basically given up complaining about Carmel to local officials. He said every time he calls officials at the township, his concerns are brushed off or ignored.
Nobody seems to care, he said. You talk to the township about it, and they say, we talked to them about it, and they're going to be bringing in a big fan or this or that chemical that will cut the odor. Nothing happens. It hasn't changed since day one. According to the mayor, Randy Greenlaw, residents who have concerns with the way Carmel Cannabis operates should notify the federal government, since Health Canada regulates the cultivation and processing of cannabis and licensed producers.
The regulations are set by the federal government. They, Carmel, have to adhere to those regulations, and there shouldn't be an elongated odor and inconvenience to the community, Greenlaw said. Wallace isn't surprised the mayor advised residents to call Ottawa. He said that's been the game all along. The locals blame the feds blame the locals. It's just kickball, Wallace said. Nobody wants to take responsibility.
According to Wallace, nobody in the community knew Carmel was setting up shop 100 yards away from their homes. He said he only found out it was a cannabis production facility after it was built. According to Wallace, who said he talked with every neighbor in his community, nobody knew anything about Carmel.
I talked with everyone up and down this road, and not one of them was visited by anyone on council at that time, Wallace said. The whole thing was a hush-hush. While Wallace concedes Carmel is doing nothing wrong, they have the legal right to do business in a legally designated area. He is bothered by what he calls a lack of common sense among members of the previous council.
Who would approve a cannabis operation in a residential neighborhood, he asked. Barry today reached out multiple times to Carmel Cannabis for comment, and they did not respond.
Well, it's a story about smell. I guess there's nothing else but the smell.
Uh-oh, did I close the wrong one? I didn't close the wrong one. I did close the wrong one. What's the next story, Glenn? I lost it.
CTV News Vancouver, federal court ruling sets back health workers seeking psilocybin mushroom access.
Wonderful. Why don't you read the first couple of paragraphs while I get it up?
This is from Vancouver. Megan McLaren thought her future career was in law enforcement, but her path radically shifted thanks in part to psychedelic drug therapy, she said. McLaren left a civilian position with the Vancouver Police Department in 2019 for a job in counseling with the Surrey School District and is now a registered clinical counselor with a practice in Squamish, BC. When the pandemic hit and her position was cut from the school district, she began researching psychedelics, eventually signing up for a 3-month group therapy program involving the use of ketamine in mid-2021. Did you get it up?
Interesting. Oh, it's up. Yes. Thank you so much. McLaren said she was suffering from depression and grief after the death of her mother. And while she came out of an experience still grieving, she was no longer depressed. Now, she and dozens of other healthcare professionals across the country are fighting the federal government in court for legal access to psychedelics, namely psilocybin mushrooms, in order to offer such therapeutic treatments in their practices.
And before they can offer patients these drug-assisted therapies, though doctors, psychologists, counselors, and nurses want a special exemption from Health Canada's Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. The exemption would allow them to take magic mushrooms themselves in experimental training before they're qualified to offer the treatments to patients. I think that's an amazing, great, wonderful idea.
They absolutely should. If we had more time, I'd tell you a story about me and my psychiatrist, but we don't. So we've got people in Canada right now who are being approved for medical assistance in dying. And those same people are being unapproved for taking mushrooms, McLaren said in an interview. We're in a little bit of a backwards movement when Canada is more willing to end people's lives than to give them a chance of surviving or dying with dignity, dying with less anxiety. Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I'm sorry, I have to take a minute. If we have to lose a story at the end, I apologize. I'll tell you. My psychiatrist believes that people that have taken mushrooms and healed with mushrooms should be able to take the Therasil course in approval to give mushrooms, because for her to take 24 hours with the patients, because that's what it takes. It actually takes 32 hours, it takes 6 to 8 hours when you're administering, letting them go through the trip, et cetera, and then you send them home, and you have to be there with your phone ready to answer it for 24 hours. So you have to give them 32 hours of straight, it has to be all, and how many talk therapy sessions can be held in that 32 hours? If you think of 8 hours of a work day, do you know what I mean? So other people need to be done it. And the government won't even consider that. They would rather put money and effort into this flippin' MAID program and approve people with, long-term depression to go kill themselves than to let them eat a magic mushroom and feel better.
Yeah, it's kind of counterproductive. That's yes. For damn sure.
I'm sorry I had to go off there for a moment.
That's okay. McLaren is part of a group of 60 or more. We read that. A ruling in nearly identical case filed in 2022 involving almost 100 healthcare professionals was dismissed on September 25th by a federal court judge who upheld the decision denying them the exemptions. The judge found there is insignificant evidence to demonstrate the need for or benefit of experimental training with psilocybin.
The evidence does not establish that psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy by expertly trained practitioner is safer and more effective, and the decisions do not prevent patients from accessing psilocybin under their own exemption or accessing psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy, the ruling says. Ottawa-based human rights lawyer Nicholas Pope said Friday that he'll be appealing the ruling all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada if necessary. Oh, if you need extra people to stand up and say what psilocybin has done for them, I'd be there.
He said he's confident that case law and precedents are on the side of both patients and healthcare workers seeking legal access to psilocybin mushrooms. Pope said it's a unique situation where case law related to pre-legalization cannabis litigation set the stage for legal battles involving mushrooms now. We knew that was going to happen when they won the cannabis battle. We knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. Here we have a safer substance, a substance that there's more evidence for its efficacy. And we have 2 decades of law established that says people have the right to access this. So it's just a matter of time before we get these cases before the right courts, he said. Pope said it's an absurd situation where anyone can easily access psilocybin mushrooms from illegal dispensaries or go for a flip and walk in the woods that have popped up across the country, while people with serious and pressing medical issues and health concerns are fighting for legal access.
That's why I've been taking on a lot of these cases and doing them pro bono, because this is just something that needs to change, he said. Pope said in a lawsuit filed on behalf of several patients in July 22, is the most pivotal challenging Canada's prohibition on psilocybin as unconstitutional.
That's sort of a big glacial pace action that seeks to strike down the whole system, he said. Thomas Hartle, one of 8 plaintiffs in the case, said in an interview in August that access to mushrooms isn't necessarily the problem, but rather access to qualified therapists who can administer the treatment. Absolutely.
And diagnosed with colon cancer 8 years ago, Hartle was one of the first people in the country allowed to consume mushrooms legally under what's known as the Special Access Program. But he had to fly to BC from his home in Saskatchewan to undergo the treatment. Traveling anywhere is both physically and financially draining, he said, but with no qualified psilocybin therapist closer to home, he's had to spend thousands on travel, food, and accommodations to receive the therapy out of province. That makes great sense.
I never think that you can include food in that. You're going to eat when you're home too, right? So,
but it's a lot more expensive to eat on the road.
But it can be, yeah. But if you're flying into a place and you get an Airbnb with a kitchen, it's not. Do you know what I mean?
Well, when I went to Costa Rica,
I'm trying to argue the point. So Hartle said Friday that his stage 4 cancer is progressing, but mushroom therapy sessions have been effective in lighting the end of life anxiety associated with it. He said the lawsuits move like a glacier, and he grapples with an uncertain future.
I do kind of these days feel like the legal case will probably outlive me, he said. I'm not at this time anticipating seeing a resolution to that. I would really like to, but the pace that things are going, I don't think that is a realistic expectation for me.
Yeah, so you're right in the fact that it costs a lot more to eat on the road if you're going to go eat in restaurants and such. But he's talking about taking a plane and flying somewhere, and you get there and he can. Airbnbs are cheaper, especially if you're traveling with more than one person. So there's no reason why he can't get somewhere, get food, and cook there. Was my thought process, right?
Yeah. The problem with cooking there is you don't have your stuff. Like we found a lot of things. My wife's vegan and she doesn't eat meat. She doesn't eat cheese. She doesn't eat anything like that. No dairy.
And you're talking
really
about
hard. This was spices.
He was going from Canada to Canada.
Yeah. It's just that, like, for her, it's like finding the spices to cook with. You can't carry them with you. And her food's, like, to me, fairly tasteless. With her, it's all about spices. A lot of Indian kind of spices. There's 28 things that go into one recipe to give it that flavor, right? To me, I eat everything, so it doesn't much matter. But for her, it was really hard finding the spices, finding things that she could eat there, and she has to research here to find it.
In this story, the gentleman is going from Canada to Canada. So they're not really, you know what I mean?
It'd be the same thing for her because she would have to find a store that supplies what she needs.
There's Middle Eastern stores all over Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thankfully, but I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, if he was having to leave the country, it would be a lot different trying to find what he needed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are heading over to CNN. Dozens of Jamaican schoolchildren hospitalized after eating cannabis candy.
More than 60 elementary school students were hospitalized in Jamaica on Monday after unknowingly eating candy laced with cannabis, according to officials. Minister of Education and Youth, Fayval Williams, told CNN none of the children who are between the ages of 7 and 12 appear to be in critical condition. That's a weird thing to say. Citing doctors, the candy caused the children to vomit and hallucinate. She posted Monday on X, formerly Twitter, addressing that some kids were put on an intravenous drip.
Over 60 primary students had to be taken to hospital. Parents, please beware, Williams wrote. One little boy said he only had one sweetie. That's how potent the product is. The minister also said on X that she visited the hospital where the children were being treated, and that doctors and nurses are doing all they can to ensure students' recovery.
And Williams posted a photo of the candy, which came in a rainbow-colored package. The packaging stated the products contain Delta H tetrahydrocannabinol, also known as Delta H THC, a psychoactive substance found in the cannabis sativa plant, of which marijuana and hemp are two varieties, according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration website.
It has psychoactive intoxicating effects, according to the U.S. agency. The minister also included a photo of the candy package showing a government warning on the back stating keep out of reach of children and not intended for use by anyone under 21 years of age.
And the package stated the product was not approved by the FDA. And Jamaica decriminalized cannabis for persons over 18 in 2015 with possession of 2 ounces or less, downgraded to a petty offense. I guess a traffic ticket.
Yeah. Okay, well, that brings us to break time. It's break time to medicate. Glenn and I'll be right back after a session. You are watching Psychedelics and Cannabis, educational news source here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
And we are back from our medication session. We are live here with the Psychedelic and Cannabis educational news here at paceradio.net, cbgtv.com, on your Roku and Fire Stick TV. Heading on to the first story after the break. Germany to legalize cannabis, but not here, there, or just about anywhere.
Okay, sorry. Next year, Germany could become the first major European country to legalize cannabis, but continued prohibition in so-called youth protection zones will make it difficult in practice. As this interactive map shows, smoking a joint will be virtually impossible in city centers. And they show you a great map of Berlin, and there's only a couple spots in the whole place that you can actually consume cannabis. In 2024, Germany could become the first major European country to legalize the recreational use of cannabis. But just because it will be allowed in theory doesn't mean you will be able to light up a joint in practice.
The bill is now being prepared for a vote in the Bundestag. Proposes continued prohibition of cannabis use in so-called youth protection zones. These zones often overlap significantly, especially in urban areas. As this map shows, it would be virtually impossible to publicly smoke a joint in central Berlin legally. When it comes to removing the legal stigma from cannabis use, there is a marked difference between the speed of the process in the U.S. and in Europe. In 1996, California became the first U.S. state to legalize medical cannabis. Medicinal use of cannabis is now legal in 38 states. Recreational use has been legalized in 23 states, and an additional 8 states have decriminalized it.
And Europe is way behind. Even the Netherlands, famous for its tolerance of soft drugs, has never officially decriminalized cannabis. There has been some movement on medical use, and various countries have expressed the intent to legalize recreational use. But it's only in 2022 that the diminutive Grand Duchy of Luxembourg became the first country in Europe to actually legalize recreational cannabis. Germany, which legalized recreational use or legalized medical use in 2017, is now discussing doing the same. Considering Germany's size and centrality in Europe, they could very well spark a rapid and radical change in cannabis legalization throughout the continent, and I hope they do. However, in an attempt to assuage the considerable political and societal opposition to the bill, the proposal actually treads a fine line between prohibition and permission, by keeping cannabis strictly off limits and out of reach for anyone under 18 years of age.
It's often said that the hallmark of a permissive society is one that allows everything that's not forbidden, while totalitarian societies, I couldn't get that word out properly, forbid everything that's not allowed. The proposed cannabis law occupies the muddy middle, allowing in theory while continuing to forbid in practice. Under the current proposal, the consumption of cannabis will remain prohibited in a 200-meter radius around schools, kindergartens, youth centers, and playgrounds, and as well in publicly accessible sports areas, as well as in pedestrian zones from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And to give its readers an impression of just how big and restrictive these so-called youth protection zones are, the Berliner Morgen Post created an interactive map with the center of Berlin as its default setting. Particularly in large cities, the overlap between individual youth protection zones creates large prohibition zones in orange. You have to see the map to see it. That can cover entire districts, the paper writes. In reality, these zones are even larger than shown here. The paper used OpenStreetMap data to locate schools, kindergarten, youth centers, playgrounds, and public sports grounds, not included other pedestrian areas, which are off limits for, let's see, bats, which is German slang for cannabis, from early morning to early evening.
The bill has not been voted on yet, so the prohibition zones aren't final. As the paper points out, they might still expand to include a 200-meter area around so-called cannabis clubs, where users can congregate inside, where these are established. If the proposal is approved, Berlin stoners who want to play it safe will have to relocate to the city's larger parks or spots along the Spree River, writes the paper. In general, it will be difficult to light up a joint in any of Germany's city centers, whether in Ruhr or Wolfsburg or Weimar.
Legally, smoking joints in city centers will require a lot of alertness and keen sense of orientation. Two things stoners are not known for. The safest way to stay, and I might admit my age group's not known for that either. So the safest way to stay on the right side of the future law may be to take a toke out in the countryside, far away from any restricted zones where what is permitted in theory will also be allowed in practice. Yep. Yeah. You have to move to the countryside if you want to smoke a joint.
Yeah. Quickly on to the next story. We are heading over to New Scientist. We know so little about cannabis and why scientists are worried.
Well, research on cannabis has surged in the last 20 years. Our understanding of the drug is decades behind like that of other substances like tobacco and alcohol. As we reported on the science of cannabis in recent weeks, nearly every researcher we spoke to lamented the yawning gap in our understanding of the drug's effect on our health, the environment, society, and much more. So why, given our long history with the drug, are we, there's so many unanswered questions?
Well, it's not a drug, it is medicine. Research into cannabis really only started in earnest, 2 decades ago. It picked up steam in the late 1990s and early 2000s, beginning with studies showing that cannabis could reduce nausea in people with HIV and in those undergoing chemotherapy. Since then, the field has exploded. Yet the number of published studies about cannabis pales in comparison to the trove of data we have on drugs like tobacco and alcohol.
And we don't have fundamental data on cannabis like we have for other stuff, says Ryan Sultan at the Columbia University in New York. And there's a couple big graphs there. The big reason for this is that the government regulations have made it exceedingly difficult to study the drug. In the US, for instance, researchers must obtain a special license from the Drug Enforcement Administration, and they can only study cannabis grown at licensed facilities. Prior to 2021, there was just one of these. Even in Canada, where recreational cannabis has been legal since 2018, federal and provincial restrictions have encumbered research.
While things are starting to change, we have reached a place that the availability and the hype around the cannabis products has outpaced the actual evidence of their effects. That has people like Sultan worried. The whole treatment and medicinal thing I find very aggravating, he says. We don't know what doses are appropriate, what their long-term effects are, or even what people are consuming, he says. In fact, we know that the things they're getting are not what the label says they are. So how could you even do dosing recommendations when you don't have accurate ways of deciphering what's in it? There are many fundamentals we have not got to grips with, from what the endocannabinoid system can influence our health to understanding how the cannabis products that are readily available to the public today are both produced and consumed, which can look very different to the controlled settings of most of the studies we currently rely on for insights. Let's find out what we need to find out so we can do this in a thoughtful, intelligent way, as opposed to what I feel like we're doing, which is just running a natural experiment, says Sultan.
I have no more of that article.
No, neither do I, which is okay, because we have like 6 minutes to do 2 more stories. Okay. So we are just going to head right on to the next story. We are heading over to marijuana moment. Let me get this up here. And cannabis entourage effect with multiple cannabinoids produces a stronger and longer lasting high than pure THC, study finds.
And I have none of that article. It's all disappeared.
Okie dokie. Well, I will just go over it right quick. When most people think about the high of consuming cannabis, they typically think about the plant's main psychoactive component, THC. But a new study is supporting the entourage effect theory, finding that cannabis produces cannabis products with more diverse array of natural cannabinoids produce an even stronger psychoactive experience that lasts longer than the high generated by pure THC products. The study utilized novel EEG technology supported by AI to quantify the high people experienced when vaping two different products. One, a full spectrum live rosin with average of 85% THC, as well as other natural cannabinoids and terpenes. And two, a high purity THC oil with 82 to 85% potency. A total of 28 adults participated in the study. Strapping on the EEG headset developed by the cannabis technology company Zentria, and taking 2 hits of 8 milligrams of either the full spectrum or pure THC varieties from a vape manufactured by PAX, which also supported the study. After getting a baseline reading before the participants consumed the products, the EEG monitored activity in 8 regions of the brain over the course of 90 minutes. And the tests were converted into a psychoactive effect levels, a PEL they're calling it, in a standardized scale from 0% to 100%. The results showed that what's that?
I said I'm back now.
Okay.
The results showed that the full spectrum live rosin with THC and other cannabinoids and terpenes had a slightly easier onset of 3 minutes, a higher potency reading for the onset, which is 20.8%, and a higher potency at the peak after 15 minutes, which is 40%, and after 90 minutes, 30.2%. The pure THC product's average onset was 4 minutes with potency at 13.5% at the peak and potency at 19.1%, and that dropped slightly to 18.1%.
So in other words, the study, which is not peer-reviewed and has not been published in a scientific journal, seems to support the concept of the entourage effect with cannabis that contains a more diverse mix of its natural components, producing more powerful experiences. This is also believed to be important for patients, as the entourage effect could bolster certain therapeutic applications. Consumers looking for psychoactive effects typically shop for cannabis products based on THC, which is a bit of a falsie. Brian Wilton, who is the vice president of product development of PAX, said in a press release on Tuesday.
In the spirit of continuing to advance cannabis research and understanding of the plant, which has been so far limited for much too long, we wanted to demonstrate through scientific study how full spectrum products with a full range of terpenes and cannabinoids have a more profound impact on the onset and ultimate cannabis experience, he said. We hope this type of insight helps consumers understand that shopping for products based on THC percentage alone is not the leading indicator of expected experience. Not only could this study help inform consumer experiences, but the findings can also help cannabis companies develop more targeted products, leveraging data on how different combinations of cannabinoids produce different effects.
Oh, if we only had more time, I'd have all kinds to say. This endeavor not only deepens our comprehension on consumer experiences, but also underscores the commitment of providing accurate and comprehensive information to consumers, thereby fostering informed product selection and consumption decisions, the study author said. Let me just say that pay attention to the terpenes, people. Pay attention. If something gets you feeling really good, pay attention to the terpenes and look for those. This isn't the first study to identify the relative benefits of more diverse cannabis products. A 2018 study found that patients suffering from epilepsy experience better health outcomes with fewer adverse side effects when they use plant-based CBD extracts compared to purified CBD extracts. That's really interesting. That's really cool. We have enough time because the last story is actually fairly short, but it caught my eye. For anybody that likes to travel, this story is coming to us from DH Canada. All the countries where it's legal to purchase cannabis besides Canada. Remember, I said this is a short story.
Now that cannabis has been legal in Canada for 5 years, it seems a little strange to us that it's not legal when we're traveling elsewhere. Risking fines or jail time for something that's so innocuous at home is a little jarring, especially when all sorts of alcohol are often readily available in many vacation destinations.
For those that don't want to give up the ability to toke easily on holiday, allow us to show you the destinations where it's currently legal to buy cannabis as easily as it is here in Canada. And the first place is Thailand. Thailand became the first country in Asia to legalize cannabis in 2022.
The Southwest Asian nation rapidly transitioned from a place where cannabis was a banned narcotic to one where tourists and locals alike could walk into a dispensary and purchase many types of flower. Number 2, the Netherlands.
Oh, but the current lenient laws on cannabis may not last. New prime minister elected this past summer wants to have it regulated for medicinal use only. Which would really.
I'm glad
really
you
suck.
caught that. I missed that line.
Oh, that's okay. To me, that was an important line to anybody traveling. I happened to see it when I was scrolling. So yeah, we're heading on to the Netherlands. Possession of up to 5 grams of cannabis doesn't come with any penalty here. And cities are well known for their coffee shops that sell cannabis and hashish to customers who are old enough.
Sharing a joint looking over Amsterdam's picturesque canals? Sign us up.
Then we hit the States.
It's still illegal at the federal level, but many states have legalized it for recreational use, and in doing so have set up a regulatory framework for dispensaries. Here's where recreational cannabis is legal in the states, and there's a list of, I think it's 30, around 30. Somewhere around
23 where it's legal. Washington, Oregon, California, Alaska, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Minnesota, Delaware, Missouri, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., and Guam. There are 32 that are medically, 23, which it's funny that it's the mirror, that you can go to and purchase cannabis legally, recreationally. And that's it. That's it. That's it. You may notice this list is rather short. There are plenty of countries that are relaxing rules around cannabis by decriminalizing its use, but decriminalization isn't quite the same as being able to hop off the plane and buy cannabis without hassle.
Very, very soon, Costa Rica is changing their laws. They want to become a cannabis destination. So you can actually, for tourists, and that's what they're talking about. It's a great thing down there, and everybody there is talking about it.
Yeah, there are places like Uruguay, the first country in the world to legalize consumption of cannabis by adults in 2013. Cannabis has been available for purchase at pharmacies in South America since 2017, but only for residents who sign up and give a fingerprint sample. And that does take us to the end of the show, just in time for me to read the closing. It's our Pace broadcast from the LakeC420.com news desk, and for October 5th, 2023. And as we close the show, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, LakeC420.com. I can never remember the new one. Campbellford Lifestyle. I don't have it written down. It's not coming to
Hydroponics.
me. It's a hydroponic store. Yes. Plus a big thank you to you, our viewers. Catch our next broadcast with Al and Kelly on Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Peace.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.